Okay, everybody, welcome to the virtual chapter for, gosh, what month is this? February 2020, the year of clear vision. We're so glad that you could join us tonight. We're going to have a special program with our guest, Wendi Friesen. And we do have a few things to share with you before we get started. A couple technical things first. One of them is that this program is being recorded, as I have already mentioned in the pre-talk here. But for if you're interested in finding the recording later on as well, it will be posted in the IACT IMDHA forum. If you're a member, you can go out onto the website and go into the forum where you'll be able to see the replay. It will also be posted in the virtual chapter Facebook group. So everybody join virtual chapter if you're not already a member of that Facebook group, and the replays will be there. And it will also be posted in the YouTube group, virtual chapter YouTube channel. So 3 places that you can get it. Hopefully I'll have it posted up here by about noon tomorrow. That's usually my intention, and I come pretty close to that. So sometime tomorrow it will be there. So do look there. And Karen, why don't you tell our folks about the CEUs that they can get?
Yes, just about to. The value of being here is being here and gathering all of this incredible information, but you get even more. Plus, you get CEUs. IACT, IMDHA give you CEUs, ICBCH, IHF, and other friendly organizations. All you have to do is let them know that you spent some time with us, and they will credit you for being here. And that's true even if you're watching this on YouTube or any Facebook or any of the other locations if you're watching the recording. So do collect your CEUs. But before you get the CEUs, gather all of this information that you're going to get from Wendi Friesen in a moment, because it's just going to be fascinating.
It is going to be fascinating indeed. Announcements. So
Yes.
guess what? We are just working up weeks away now, only a few weeks away from the 2020 Hypno Expo here in Orlando, Florida, April 24th to the 26th, with pre and post conference programs before and after. Be there or be square, man. This is Orlando, Florida. It is a lovely place to be, easy to get to, airport right here, and all sorts of attractions. So come and join us in Orlando for the expo.
Stay an extra day and do my post-conference, Secret Sauce for Session Success.
Secret sauce.
Secret sauce. And in fact, and I'm going to put this up on the screen if you'll bear with me. Let's see, it's right here. Let's look at this. Because beginning on Sunday, this Sunday coming, at the same time spot that we're in right now, and at the same login, so you can use the virtual chapter login, we'll be interviewing presenters that are doing pre and post-conference programs at the expo. So the folks that are doing the longer programs, we're going to get them. We do 2 a night, and they are Sunday nights beginning February 16th and ending on March 15th. Starting out with me and Roy Hunter the first night, I'm going to talk about the master trainer training that we have just, we're in the process of revamping and bringing it up into the 2020, updating the training in the program. And Roy Hunter is going to be teaching his parts therapy stuff. So that's going to be great. Next week, we'll have Dan Cleary and Bruce Eimer. The week after, Dan Cleary talking about pain, Bruce Eimer talking about depression. The week after that, Eric Rosen and Patty Scott will be talking about their medical hypnotherapy specialty training, and Will Horton will be here to talk about basics of NLP for hypnotists and therapists. The next week, Sheila Granger, some of you saw her on the Galaxy of the Stars over this past weekend. She's going to be here talking about successful hypnopreneurs, business and marketing operating system. And Sherry Gilbert, lovely lady, is going to be discussing her smoking cessation for groups and the program that she runs. And then finally, last but not least, is Peter Blum will be ending up the series, but he will only be able to end it up well because he will be preceded by the charming and brilliant Karen Hand, who will be giving you her recipe for secret sauce for session success. So there's the schedule right there, and we hope that you'll tune in on Sunday nights. Free deal, and by the way, you even get CEUs for that. So hey, come on and see us.
How about it? You get CEUs for attending the conference too, so you might as well do all of that stuff. You'll be so well trained.
You will have enough CEUs for the next 70 years.
I just want to say I'm excited because I've got 3 new IAC members joining us. They will be graduating this weekend, this coming weekend. And so that'll be cool. They'll be looking for CEUs coming up soon. They'll be joining the virtual chat.
And Karen, tell them about Las Vegas. You're about to head out there. What's the deal? What are you doing?
Be in Vegas for the ICBCH conference, the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And on the 17th, Kelly Woods and I will do a full day workshop on doing hypnosis workshops. And our new book is out. We're premiering it on the 17th, Hypnotic Workshops Like a Pro. So it's up on Amazon if you're interested already, but it comes out officially when we do the workshop. That'll be very fun. That'll be very fun indeed.
Excellent. So that's all the announcements I got. How about you, Karen? You all set?
I'm all set. Yeah.
Cool. Well, then it's time for us to begin to introduce a lady to you. I got to tell you, I had an official biography of her that I read the other day, and it's all this lovely stuff about being a single mom and, you know, toughing it out and doing all the great stuff that she did. And I'm sure she's going to tell you some stuff about that. But I will tell you that when we were still operating practically at a DOS prompt, I think it was before Windows, I was on a computer group and folks started talking about Wendi Friesen. And they talked about her because of a couple of things. She did something a little bit controversial, some might say. I think it's not that controversial, because you can do anything with hypnosis, and she seems to have gotten quite a response to marketing a program for breast enhancement with hypnosis. People saying, no, can you do that? You can't do that. You can't, you know, really. And it was a big discussion, lovely thing. It brought her a lot of attention, but then she did so many more things, and she ended up, and this is the thing that I mentioned just before we got started. She ended up on Coast to Coast. Well, I don't know if it was George or Art who did the show with you, Wendi, but gosh, you were everywhere, and you were just working like a mad woman. And for a while, she was also running a kind of radio show on the net every week or every day for a while, wasn't there? Something like that.
I did Monday through Friday for 2 hours a day.
Oh my God. So this lady works hard, plays hard, does hypnosis brilliantly, and has so much to share with us. She talked to us at the Galaxy of the Stars all about wealth mindset and stuff, because the topic was the business of hypnosis and and how to do that. But today we've got her here for a whole different topic, which is addictions. And I know it's a topic that is dear and close to her heart. So we're going to let her tell you all about that. But I just want to say, Wendi, we're really thrilled that you're here, and thanks a lot for being with us.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. This is very exciting, and I love spreading the word about this subject, because the horrors that I have seen in addiction treatment should be just considered fraud. It's terrible what they're doing in most of the rehabs. So I'm going to help you understand what it is that's really going on and why people fail, because of 12-step AA is made to make you fail. Not on purpose, but it's something that's like 80, 85 years old. It's not based on anything that we know about how the brain works or any of the amazing things we do to help people get over problems and habits and addictions. So my oldest son went to a rehab because he had been drinking a lot and just couldn't get a handle on it. And the first one he went to, when he finally said, okay, Mom, I'll go, I thought, oh, this is it. Oh, he's going to be all fixed up, and then, then we'll have a happy life. But it doesn't really work like that. When you get out of your first rehab and you relapse, then you got to go to the next one and the next one and the next one, each time thinking this is it. So the first one he went to, I wrote them a check for about $28,000 for 1 month. And I went there for one of the meetings because they were having a guest speaker, and the guest speaker is an expert who travels around to rehabs and 12-step meetings, and he tells them things. He's been an expert for a long time. So he gets up there and he says, hi, my name's George, and I got to tell you that I've been sober for 20 years. And even after 20 years, every day I'm just trying to make it till midnight. I white knuckle it some nights. What did he just do? He future paced everyone, and as an authority, we believe what he's doing is correct. He future paced them to 20 years that they're still going to be white knuckling it and struggling. And this is really serious, and you can see that he's like really feeling bad. And then he says, but you know, remember those days when you're on a plane, you're going somewhere, and the stewardess had the little bottles? I'd steal like 12 of them, and I'd have them all, and I could just drink them. It was great. You could just get wasted on the plane. Well, now he just took them from future pacing them to struggle for 20 years. And then the joy and the happiness when he tells them about drinking, and now he's planting that into that pleasure center even more than it was. It was crazy. So when Sean left that rehab, they told everyone there, they said, some of you are getting ready to go home, but I want you to know that in 60 days, only 1 in 12 of you will still be clean and sober. Well, thanks a lot. I guess I'll just go get effed up tomorrow. How about that? Hey, what are they doing? So, okay, this gets even worse. There's a rehab that was $10,000 for a year, and you went to AA meetings 5 days a week. And so I went to one of the meetings with my son, and the director says to the guy next to him as he's talking to everybody in the circle, he says, so you're a high relapser? And the guy goes, yeah. And he says, so when do you usually relapse, at 30 or 60 days? And he said 30 days. From our perspective, this should not be allowed to happen, because we're dealing with people's lives and their family money that they're putting into there. And then he says, well, you know, Christmas is coming up in 3 weeks, so you know it's going to be really hard, and a lot of people relapse around the holidays, and it's going to be really tough, and you're really going to have to fight it hard. Oh my gosh. Oh. And this was, like I said, he charged $10,000 per person, and he had about 100 people who were members of his group. And all they did was come to one meeting every day for 5 days. They could come to as many as they wanted. $10,000 times 100 people. You can do the math if you like. Okay, this one you're gonna, another rehab that my son went to. This one, we were, families were there with all the residents, and the psychologist was working with a young girl that was about 18 years old who was going to be going home tomorrow. She had the girl sit in a chair in the middle of the circle, and then she had 4 men stand up and just stand kind of around behind her. And she's told the men that they're going to act like they're the drugs, and they're going to be a little aggressive. So she tells the girl to close her eyes and take a deep breath and relax your body, and imagine you're in your bedroom at home. And in that bedroom, you're going to have to fight those drugs. And then she has the men going, "Arr!" Says, and there you are in your bedroom. You got to fight hard so you don't do any drugs. And they're there, they're all around you. And then she has the men go outside the door. So they're outside the building, and there's some big windows. And she told them to bang on the windows. So now she says to the girl, okay, there you are in your bedroom, and they're outside, and they're trying to get you. And the guys are banging on the windows. And they're out there, they're always trying to get you. You have to be so strong. Oh my gosh, that was so sickening to see her do that to this girl and make her fear being in her bedroom. Oh, and thinking that the drugs are there. They're always trying to get her. And she was in hypnosis. She told her to close her eyes and breathe and all those good things. So a big rehab in Southern California that my son went to. This one, normally you can only have 6 people in a residential rehab, but they housed everybody in apartments. So they put 6 people in each apartment, and they had bought a whole bunch of apartments. So they had about 100 people, and I had written them a check for $33,000. Sean was there for, it had been maybe a couple weeks, and the director, Ryan, somebody had told him that I do hypnotherapy for addiction. So he had me come sit down in his office and talk to him. He says, you know, we have to do something to improve our success rate. We only have maybe a 5%, maybe 7% success rate. I just wrote you a check for $35,000. Oh, so he said, we want to improve it. So he got a group of about 20 or 25 of the residents, the addicts and alcoholics, and he had me do some work with them as a group. And so I did about 45 minutes of a session of taking them on a future timeline to where they've been free from the drugs for a year or the alcohol. That it was so easy, easier than they imagined. And now there's something they love about themselves, something they really love about what they're creating in their life. And, you know, your family is back and people are feeling good and you can trust yourself. Okay, so I did that. And then the next day, Ryan calls me into his office and he says, what did you do to them? Everyone's talking about you. They're all so happy and so excited. So they were going to bring my program in. First, I had to meet with the board of directors. And they were all pretty excited about my presentation, except for one. One person did not like me. It was the psychiatrist. And, you know, psychiatrists, they're like, you're a hypno what? You don't even have letters after your name that mean anything. So anyway, I went and met with him privately, and he was like, nope, 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 nope. Isn't that sad? So they're going to keep doing the thing they know doesn't work and keep taking money from families and sending people off more scared and more determined to relapse. So sad. So your identity when you are in rehab or going to 12-step meetings, your identity is that you are an alcoholic or an addict. You always will be. And you, for the rest of your life, you introduce yourself as an alcoholic or an addict. You say it over and over and over. And what do we do with hypnosis? Repetition, to embed the traits that we want people to have. So here's the repetition with everyone you talk to. Hi, I'm Susie. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, I'm Jim. I'm an addict. And you're going to meetings. In the beginning, you're supposed to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. And you're going to say this over and over and over. And then they tell you that relapse is part of recovery. Well, that doesn't sound very good. If I got someone to quit biting their nails and I said, well, biting your nails again is part of recovery from nail biting. So they have them believing that. They believe that it is a struggle and a battle. And they all talk about how hard it's going to be. You are listening to 90 days of sad stories. Now, the energy in the room, when you're listening to sad stories, your brain is opening up all the memories that match those sad, sad stories. And it's energizing them from way back in your past or what's going on now. Every day, you're doing that. And then, one of the radio ads I used to run for the Alcohol Freedom Program said, if the only time that you feel like having a drink is right after an AA meeting, it is not your fault. And people would call and they'd say, oh my God, that's the only time that I slip up and I go get booze is right after the meetings. So the meetings don't make them better, they make them worse. So many people reacted to that statement that I made. You are an alcoholic or an addict forever, that you never get over that. It's a disease, it's genetic, it's not curable. Oh my gosh. And if you relapse, you go back to step number 1 because you have lost all your progress. And with my program, you know, as I'll tell you as we get into this, if you relapse, I even tell them ahead of time, I say, you know, everyone's different. And if you do happen to have a drink, or don't let it have any meaning for you. It doesn't mean anything. We'll work on it. You come back the next day and we'll work on it. But I'm not telling you to drink, but I'm just telling you if it happens, yeah, it's just not a thing like that you go back to step 1. So now, if you are in the Addiction Freedom Program, there are some things that we set in place. So when you look at the list I just told you about of your identity in 12-step, this is your identity when you're doing addiction freedom. in the training, and I'm going to give you like a lot of the pieces of how you do this, and you'll know a lot of the things that you already do that apply to this program. It's just making sure that you do all of them. We embed 3 words into your subconscious and into your emotional body and your mental body and your physical body. The 3 words are strong, healthy, in control. So when you're in, like, most of the different processes that we do, when you're in them, we're using those words a lot. But first, we want to embed what they really mean in your identity. So if you're on the future timeline and you go 6 months and you're at 6 months in the future and you're there hearing me say, and you notice how easy it was that when you decided to let go, it was just the right thing to do, and you know it feels good. Now, at this moment in your life, notice that feeling of strength, that you are strong, mentally, physically. You have this spiritual strength now that you really love. And what is it really like to feel that you're strong? You can count on yourself. You're strong. You trust yourself. You're strong. You know that you are feeling really sturdy and strong. So strong is all anchored. Okay. Then healthy. You say, you might have noticed already at this, in 6 months in the future now, that you're feeling healthy. Your body has recovered and you're out there exercising and you're eating good foods and your brain has come back. You're feeling so sharp now. You are healthy. And then keep embedding that word healthy, what it means, and ask them personally what feels healthy to you so we can get their personal identity things in there. And then in control, and doing the same thing with, and the in control isn't that you're fighting something to be in control, it's so you can count on yourself. And you are in control of the choices you make, of the people that you hang out with, of the things that you do. And look what you've done now that you feel you're in control. So we've embedded these 3 words. And if you're working with a client privately, you would get their personal things and keep putting those into each word. And then they go to 1 year in the future. And when they're at 1 year in the future, we continue to embed these words. I like to have them find something they love that they are doing at 1 year in the future. So how are you doing with your family? Notice how easy it is to be with your family. You've repaired some relationships and you're really feeling that genuine love now. You don't have anything to hide. It's just really pure, things like that. But then you're doing something you love. There's some talent you've had for a long time, and now that your brain is so sharp, you're doing that and you're loving it. And so this great example, this man named Ken, he just used the recorded program. He was a big alcoholic. He drank more than a case of beer every day, and he was very fat. And he told me, said, Wendi, I was just a fat slob drunk. Everybody knows that that's all I have in my life. I'm just a fat slob drunk. I drink a case of beer every day and I don't do anything. So he quit drinking after like the 2nd day of the recorded program. And he said, you know, I noticed about a week later that there's a couple cans of beer in my fridge. I didn't even notice them. I didn't even see them. So I decided to have a little beer. And I poured it in the glass. And I had a sip. I was like, yeah, I don't want it. Didn't mean anything to him. The meaning of his identity was gone. He didn't accept the fear that said, if you even look at alcohol, you're going to relapse. And you're also supposed to stay away from normies. And normies are people who drink. You can't be with them. So anyway, he let me know a few years later how good he's doing. He started being an athlete. He said, I am not an athlete. I'm a fat slob drunk when he was doing the program. He said, but at 1 year in the future, I saw myself as an athlete and I don't know why. That makes no sense. He said, but it felt really good and it was fun and I was running and doing different things. He found something that made him feel passionate and excited about life. He wasn't just not drinking or not doing drugs. and calling himself an alcoholic. He was replacing it with something important, something that meant a lot to him. He is an Ironman. He has been for over 15 years now, because he went into the future on my recording. He started running, swimming, biking. He's gone to Ironmans all over the world, and he's been in the Kona Ironman, which is the premium one that you have to qualify for. Because he listened to the recording, and he wasn't told you're an alcoholic forever and you're always going to struggle and relapse. The stories like that I have heard are phenomenal. And when people go in that future and they find something that really does feel good, and you're using the right language to describe it, they want it so bad that alcohol doesn't matter anymore. When I was making this program, I drank wine every night, but I was doing the recordings, you know, and you have the headphones on, so you're getting the hypno as well while you're doing it. And about a week later, I opened one of my cupboards and like, oh, there's wine bottles in there with wine. I had totally forgot. I didn't even think about it. Because when I get home, the first thing I did is have a glass of wine. But it was weird. Like, I totally didn't even realize. So great. Okay, so woman stopped me at the grocery store. And she said, Wendi, oh my gosh, it's so cool to meet you. My husband used your alcohol program because his alcohol problem was out of control. And he hasn't been drinking. But what's really weird is when we have people over, or if we go to parties, or we even go to wineries and go wine tasting, because this was Northern California, he says he doesn't need to drink. He doesn't care. It doesn't affect him to be around it. But at home, he'll pour drinks for everybody and no problem. Because we change the triggers. So when you see the alcohol, or you see anything that reminds you of the drug, or you see other people doing that, it reminds you how strong and healthy and in control you are. So you can see it and go, wow, you don't own me. I'm strong and healthy and in control. Where previously, if an alcoholic sees people sitting in a bar or sees alcohol, it's like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. I don't know if I can do this. Oh. So then man who had quit drinking, it had been about 2 months, and he let me know that he was at a conference, a business conference. He was sitting at the bar drinking his club soda, and his friend came up and bought him a glass of his favorite whiskey because his friend didn't know he quit drinking. His friend took the whiskey and put it under his nose. So what is the most powerful trigger we have? The olfactory. It is, because you guys have experienced it in your lives. Oh my gosh. So he puts it under his nose, and he said, when I smelled that whiskey, I knew I was totally fine. He is strong, healthy, in control. We didn't have any desire to drink it or do anything, and said, yeah, I quit drinking, no big deal. And I'm done with that. So think about that, the identity issues that these people have, and there's thousands of these stories that still blow my mind. But the identity of being in 12-step in AA, and the identity of being a strong, healthy, and in control person who can trust themselves. And so I do, when I'm training hypnotherapists in person, we do this experiment. And if any of you are going to train other people at some point to learn this program, this is a really cool experiment. But it would also work really well if you were working with like a group of, let's say, 20 people who are drinkers or drug users. This is a great experiment for them as well. So I give someone a roll of duct tape, and I said, run the duct tape on the floor across the room. And then we're going to go on that side of the duct tape. And everybody's standing up. And I have them close their eyes, and I say, your brain knows that this is just pretend, and that it is just an experiment. You've been drinking for a long time, and you have ruined a lot of relationships in your life. So they got their eyes closed. They're still standing up though. It's been such a battle for you, and you know that you have a disease, and you know that relapse is part of recovery, and sometimes you feel you can't trust yourself. You've heard all the sad stories. and you don't know what else you're going to do, but you are going to be an alcoholic forever. So I just say these statements, and then I ask them, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes, but I don't want you to say anything. First, on a scale of 1 to 5 with your hands, I want you to tell me how much certainty you have that you can quit drinking right now. And then people are just like 1. So, and then I say, open your eyes and look around. And everybody's got like, and you look at the faces are so sad. Oh my God, their faces just transformed into the most saddest people. Okay, and I say, okay, now we're gonna jump over that tape line, but you're gonna dance and shake it off. So just shake, 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 jump over line and go over to the other side. Then on the other side, close their eyes, and I go over the identity of the person they are with the addiction freedom. And I say, long time ago, you used to have some problems with alcohol, and isn't it great to know you left them in the past and it's not a thing? You've been free for 6 months now, and you're strong. You can count on yourself. You're healthy. You're in control. Your family is happy to see you every time, and so on and so forth. So now their faces have changed. Their posture changed. Their faces changed, and it went. And then I'd spend more time than that on it. I spend, you know, a good 3 or 4 minutes on each side. I said, now put your fingers up of a 1 to a 5. How certain do you feel that you could live a healthy life and let go of alcohol? And then they're all like 4s and 5s. But I say, now without talking, just look around at each other's face. Just look at those faces. The change is extraordinary. It is just mind-blowing to see that their physiology changed to like, yeah, got this. Wow. So when I did that experiment, the first time I had them go back to the other side and just feel what's going on there, back to this side and feel what's going on there, so they could understand how things trigger you and how different your state can be. So I had someone take the tape off the floor and then said, okay, you can take your seats. The people whose seats were on that side of the room, they wouldn't go there. They would not go to that side of the room. Because, yeah. And then we're going to AA meetings and we're on that side of the room. And these people don't even want to sit on that side of the room anymore.
Wendi, do you mind if I testify for a minute? Because you did this exercise. You did this exercise the last time that I saw you live and in person in London.
Oh.
And I really remember that it was, well, I thought actually for a few minutes during your exercise, Wendi, I have to admit, I thought, well, this is really awful. This is just the most terrible thing. You know, why would anybody want to make a bunch of people feel this way? And it was amazing. It was really amazing. And you're absolutely right. People didn't want to go back and sit in their seats on the wrong side of the room.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I've done it with several groups, and what it does for the hypnotherapists that you're training is it does give them the full effect, you know, just for 3 minutes or so, of what happens to these people who sit in these AA meetings 90 days in a row or 30 days in a row, or court-ordered rehab that they're going and sitting in these meetings and they're just doing 12-step stuff. I mean, it's good. It's the only thing they had in the 1938 or whenever it was created. That's all they had. It was better than nothing. But it's so flawed and it's so dangerous. And my passion is to get the word out and give solid evidence that it is the worst thing you can do for yourself. So there's a place in Malibu that's a rehab center that opened up, and he has 12 hypnotherapists there. He has healthy, nutritious foods, supplements to repair your brain, massage. It's $100,000 for 1 month. He has a very high success rate. So a few of his hypnotherapists came to see me when I was living in Newport Beach because they needed training, because they didn't give them any training on what to do with the clients. He just figured you'll know what to do. So they came and trained with me, and then they go back there and bring the work back there, which is kind of cool. But he had says an 85% long-term success rate with his people. And he is doing it in different ways. He is doing brilliant things to get the physical, mental, emotional, everything taken care of and nurtured. And yeah. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what, I'm going to share the screen, but I don't want to change the audio on this one because, oops, let's see. Okay, right here. Share. There we go. Okay. This is, now, this meeting tonight is not a pitch to get you to want to take my Addiction Freedom course. This is to introduce you to the program and give you some ideas. If you decide you want to know more, that's great. But I just want to know, this isn't a pitch. It's just to show you what I've created. This is the front of the book. And relapse prevention for a life free of drugs and alcohol. So this is what a therapist uses when they go through this. And this part would be all about you, that first part. What the therapist uses with the client. And a lot of it, I've written it because I want the client to have a consistent experience. I want them to learn the things, for instance, that are on this page about the 12 steps, why it doesn't work, why it makes you fail, and all of the negative things, the core beliefs and identity. And then this part in green, it says desire, you have to want to change, core belief, those things. I just want them to know that, so that if the therapist doesn't have this whole program in their brain, this is how they can do it. There's a lot of writing in here because we know that writing really embeds the things we're learning. So before you do, for instance, I'm not sure what session is coming up right here, but they write down what they want about their body and their health, my daily habits and routines, what they want their family and relationships to be, and what they want for their success and wealth. Well, I know for sure that no 12-step meeting and no rehab is doing any of this. They're not giving them any vision of the future, except that it's going to be really hard out there. Life's going to be a bitch. Okay, so then this one is the fork in the road. And this one is based on a lot of the things they did the writing in on that part. So they take this fork in the road where they're walking down a path, and some of you may have heard of this process because I know several people do it, but you're walking down a path and your wording on this is really important. And then suddenly the path splits into two different paths. So then you can notice that the path to the left is a path that continues to do the same thing in your life, do what you've been doing, and you know what that feels like. And if you would just step on that path and just take a few steps just to notice that that is one way to live your life, to keep drinking, or if it's drugs, and you say the drugs, but to keep drinking and to keep feeling bad about yourself and keep wondering if you'll ever quit. Just walk a few more steps on that fork to the left and notice what's happening in your life. Who are you with? Or are you isolated? Do you have anybody that can count on you? And anyway, so then bring them back to the fork and then take them on the fork to the right. And of course, the one on the right is the freedom they feel. And as they're walking on that one, you know, the freedom that you feel because you made a decision about your life is better than you ever expected. And you found out that you do have what it takes to be healthy, to feel good, to be proud of being a man or proud of being a woman, all the family things and everything, and then have them come back to the fork again. And I really build this moment up so it is just like supercharged. So I'm going to ask you in a moment, when I count to 3, to take a step onto the path that is the one you want. Now, of course, to me, it seems obvious, right? But I haven't had anybody go down the path to the left ever after this. But I say there are 2 ways to live your life, and you have a choice. And you can do it the way that you feel is the right one for you. So when I ask you, I want you to take that step onto the path. And I've got music playing, this one that just builds and builds and builds, so it's really intense. And I say 1, you can do this. 2, ready? 3, take that step now. Feel it as you go into that future, the one that you want, the thing that you love. Just take those steps. Maybe you're running now because it feels so good. So they take that path to the right, and I talk about the left one dissolving. So I haven't had anyone take the path to the left. I'm sure it could happen someday. And I'm not exactly sure how you'd handle that. Maybe ask them a lot of questions. Say, what is it that made you feel that you needed to go to that path? And what is it that really drew you there? And then work on that. And then you could do the fork in the road again.
Chris Darby had a question. Wendy, if you are you open for a question right now?
Yeah, I'm just doing the share again so we can.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I gotta.
Okay.
And I can't see the questions if I'm sharing, I think.
Yeah, she didn't write it. She's gonna talk. She raised her hand.
Okay, go ahead. Is her mic on?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Hi, Wendy. So you can answer this later, but you were talking about how in AA, they have to go 90 days, and all that. And at some point, if you could just address like how long your program is for groups versus individuals, and kind of ongoing support you're doing, and what kind of work they're having to do in between sessions when they're not seeing you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
and actually we are going to get to that very soon. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, we're going to get into that.
Great.
So this, after the fork in the road process, I assume you're looking at the my screen.
Yeah.
They write a letter to themselves, and this is really important. I went through some long-term programs that were just for like, getting out of your shit and being a better person. And we wrote a lot of letters to ourselves, and it was just so therapeutic, especially in a group. And then it tells them in the book tonight to listen to the infusion session, which is really nice, loving words about not drinking or doing drugs. And then the wake up happy first thing in the morning. So each section is laid out. So the next time they come back, like maybe you're working with them every day. Some people do work with them every day for a certain amount of days. And so then we're working on desire. And over here on the left side, it says, I don't want to be an addict. But think about that statement. What does that feel like? So they've only lived their life saying, I don't want to be an addict. I'm not going to be an alcoholic, but I have a disease. So it helps them understand what it means to be strong, healthy, in control, so that we've got that piece. And now they do some more writing here. This is the future timeline session that you do with this piece, which is going 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year in the future. And then they do the writing after that and what they experienced. And then this is doing more of the future timeline by writing down ahead of time the things they want in all the segments in their future. If they write it down ahead of time, you can see if their outcomes are not well defined, if they're too general, and they're not really putting the things they need. So you work with them to get personal about that. And then your future timeline, another letter to myself. And now we're only up to the second section, which is all about beliefs. Is relapse part of recovery? Is addiction an incurable disease? So again, everyone's getting the same experience as far as the knowledge that the client needs. And then changing your beliefs about addiction. And plus it's a nice colorful book too. And then you do the timeline of their past. So you work with traumas and difficult things that cause them to start drugs or drinking, and resolving the past things. And an identity and so on. I love this book, it's so pretty. I just love the colors. It makes me feel like it's really special. And I think it does that for the clients as well. Okay. Clients privately, and you could see them for, I'd say, like a 3-week intensive, and see them at 3 times a week. So that would be like 9 sessions. Or you can see people as a group. Now, I think this is probably the best way to do it. As a group, when they have the connection together with each other and they're on a positive path, it is a really good connection and the support. And for them to share with each other is really great. There is a group was a group in Northern California. It was once a month, and it's a guy who wrote a book about addiction. Oh God, what was it? It was about having this part of you that's the beast, and he called it the beast. I don't know if you remember what that book was. But anyway, he had 45 people that came to his 4-day workshop every month. It was sold out several months in advance. He charges $4,900, or used to. And he had 45 people every month sold out. They would be there like 8 hours a day doing group processes. And he did good, and he had great success rate. I talked to him on the phone all the time. But do the math, that's a lot. And the people that are coming to him, it's a bargain, because instead of paying $30,000 and having to put your life on hold for 30 days, you're going to get your stuff handled in 4 days. Mm-hmm. And I know he wasn't Jack Trempy maybe? He wasn't a hypnotherapist, but he did really good work with what he was doing. So you could do a 4-day program and do it in a hotel so that you have a little conference room, and they've got their rooms, and work through this whole program in 4 days. If you work with someone privately, like I've had people fly in to here and they get a hotel, and then I come to them and we do a 4-day intensive, one-on-one. They pay $5,000 for that. The first day, I start in the afternoon, because I'm assuming maybe they flew in that morning. And I start at like 2 o'clock, and we do about 3 hours on the first day. And the next day I come at 10 and make sure they've done their assignments and listen to some of the audio sessions. And I work with them until about 1 o'clock, and take a little break, and then do another hour or so after that. And total of like probably 11 hours altogether. On the 4th day, we only do the morning. We only do a couple hours in the morning. But we've gone through this whole program. They have been bombarded with all this hypnosis and writing and everything. And people can change in just a few days. It doesn't have to be spread out 1 day a week. Renee says, check out Tommy Rosen, Recovery 2.0. Oh, I know, Recovery 2.0, a yoga teacher, former addict, but he's still 12-step. He is, yeah, he's doing some good things, but he is still doing 12-step. At least he was a couple years ago when I saw him around the internet. Okay, there in hospitals, there are groups for addiction, and they offer this, and health insurance pays for it and stuff. There's no reason you couldn't present a new methodology that people have a choice. They could do addiction freedom, or they can do 12-step. They are hungry for something to help their patients stop drinking and stop drugs. And most of the hospitals are 12-step groups again. Oh, there was one doctor that I was at for whatever. He found out I was a hypnotherapist, and I told him I specialize in drug and alcohol addiction and stuff, and he said, oh wow, we need something so bad. We've got to have something that works that we can send the clients to. Insurance companies, if you want to go bigger, find out if the insurance company will approve your program to make it available to their patients, because it's costing them a lot of money to keep insuring people who are addicts. So if you see someone privately 3 times a week for maybe 3 weeks, about $2,000. If you want to do a group and have people come and be with you in a group for 3 days, which I did those way back in the past, and I charged $2,000 a person for that. Still a great bargain. And then they had follow-up that was included. And then, like I said, large groups. Boy, if you could get that going and get people just signing up to come and spend those 4 days with you, you'd have a phenomenal effect on so many people, especially because this just isn't something that is available in the mainstream. So those are ways to do it with so many different, it's not something to do just once a week. That's not going to be the way you do this, because your client has 6.5 days of going like, oh my God, I did 1 session and now I have nothing. You could mix the recorded sessions with your private sessions. So if you're doing a 4-day intensive, I have the client listen to this session this afternoon, this one at night, tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning, you're doing this one. And then I come in and do 2 or 3 sessions with them. So they're getting just totally immersed in it, which I have really felt is the way to go. And I mean, the proof that I have from my program, the testimonials for people who failed and failed and failed and knew there was no way this was going to work either. They had no expectation that this would work. And it did. And they said, it's weird. I just quit drinking. Just quit. Now, drugs, if you're going to work with drugs, it's a different situation because every drug has such a different effect on the person or on their brain or the reasons they do it. This program works great for drugs. I had a meth addict that used the recorded program, and he's doing great. And it was about 6 months after he had used it, he walked into my office and brought me a yellow silk rose, which I still have, and said, I'm back with my family, feeling good, life's good. Meth, not a thing. It's not a thing in my life. And it's hard to quit meth. And cocaine is really, really difficult because there are some physical aspects to it that, you know, you got to get past. And opiates, that's a tough one. So addictive, and the withdrawals take 2 weeks of torture. You are vomiting, you have uncontrollable diarrhea, it feels like your bones are on fire, and that happens for 2 weeks. My son, when he got into his first sober living house, he learned to shoot up heroin. He had never done it before that. But there were 2 girls there that showed him how to shoot up heroin. So now he's, you know, a heroin addict. My son did not want to get help from me because that is difficult. You know, it's a touchy relationship with your mother, but he was willing to go to rehabs. And he was very smart and 6'5", gorgeous, charismatic, a genius. But I think most people who are authorities, he didn't want to take any of their wisdom or do anything they wanted him to in the rehabs because he's smarter than all of them. And he was stubborn in that way. He was on and off heroin many times. He had cleaned up many times, and he was here, it was a year and a half ago, he was here with me for about 3 weeks, and he was doing really good, and he was really happy, and he wanted to go back to Montana. So I got him a bus ticket to get him down to Denver, where he'd get on the bus that would go to Montana. And when he was in Denver, I think what a lot of heroin addicts do is just one more time. They just want one more time, because he was going to go back to a rehab he could live at. It's kind of a sober living place up there. And he died because he just either got fentanyl and it was too strong, or you just never know. You never know. Yeah. So that was a year and a half ago. And that was like, you know, I couldn't help my son. I mean, I did help him in many ways because his mother was always there for him. He could, no matter what's going on, he can come back to me always. And he knew that, and he did. But his gift was helping me learn something that is so phenomenal and so big and can save so many lives, and has saved so many lives and marriages and parenting and everything. Sean's gift, that I would not have been doing this if it hadn't been for his expertise, telling me what's going on in the rehabs. Yeah. So anyway, we know this. We know it's not working, but yet people are still hypnotizing the masses to think 12-step is the only way. And I still want to do something really, really big with this. And one of the things was to open up a room like the guy that had everybody in the circle and charged them $10,000 for a year. Get a place like that that's colorful and happy, and it has really great booming music going on. You get in there and you're feeling good. You anchor feeling strong and healthy and in control. And they come there for 4 or 5 days a week to come to the meetings. And the meetings are really fun, and they feel good, and they're not doing the AA thing. And that's with just 100 people that are paying $10,000 each, you've got a business that's doing over $1 million a year. And some of you might have been at the financial abundance thing I did on Sunday. This isn't just about making money, it is about helping massive amounts of people. So when I mention the money, the reason is if you are not successful and you're not making the money you want to make, this is something really important you can do. People are, it's a bargain. For $10,000 for a year is a bargain compared to going to rehabs. And then they have a sense of community, a place where they go and they feel stronger instead of weaker. So the other thing that I want to do is, I talked about Bloomberg the other day on Sunday, and Bloomberg's wiki page, he says that the way that he's got like $38 billion or something, and he says the way that I want to die is that the check to the undertaker bounces. I want to give away all my money and do really amazing things for people. One of his big purposes, his big missions, is about alcohol abuse and tobacco. He wants to get people off of alcohol and off of tobacco, not just in this country, but all over the place. And he is going to put his money into something to help people quit drinking and quit alcohol. He didn't mention other drugs, but when he and I talk, we'll talk about that. So I just think you got a guy that has $38 billion that wants to give his money to the causes that are important to him. And I have something that is tested and proven for 2 decades for people who say, there's no way I can quit drinking. I failed too many times. I just don't have what it takes. And they do. And all of you understand why, because we got the tools, but it's not something you're just going to do direct suggestion with. Like, we want to hit it from all angles and immerse them in it, like, so that it's not once a week or it's not even once a day, for several hours each day. So we do a swish to change their belief about themselves. And we use that swish to put all the old beliefs about, AA and all that crap, and beliefs about themselves. And then this other side is the thing that's the power, strength, count on yourself, you're healthy, the thing you love doing, the thing you're passionate about now. Because I just know from hearing all these customers of mine and clients that AA never gave them something to be looking forward to. There was never anything for them like, I'm just crap. I get up every day, I dread going to AA. I have to say, hi, I'm Judy, I'm an alcoholic, and blah, 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 and talk about my shit. And I don't want to listen to their sad stories, talk about my past. God. Anyway, where was I? So you do all these sessions, and the book has, let's see, I'll go through a little bit more of the book and show you what else is in there. So like on this one, the journal says the past does not equal the future. As I move forward, I'm creating something that matters to me. The things that are most important to me now are, and then it says what I am willing to do to prove that I value these things. So now in AA, they might make a list of things you should stay away from. Don't go to a bar ever. Don't go anywhere where they're serving alcohol. Don't see your friends that you used to see, whatever. But anyway, we do this instead. Now you all know this one, self-sabotage. We explain to the client that there's a positive intention for the horrible things that they're doing. And this helps them understand it. And then you do parts therapy. And in the parts therapy, you talk specifically about the drug use and that part of you is trying to achieve something positive. Even though it's a negative way to do it, it's trying to give you something and help you or rescue you. So anyway, we learn about how the parts therapy works and how it creates so much struggle and conflict. And this is about making it easier. It continues the parts. I'm sorry, flipped too fast. So they wrote down the 3 things the part wanted and the 3 new things that the part needs. And then they do more journaling, what my part really wants, and another way it can get what it needs, and so on. And then we talk about thoughts are things, your words that you use, the self-talk, and catching all the self-talk so that they're not going to be repeating those old patterns. And then they do a session that's on self-talk. So I hypnotize them to, anytime there's a negative thought or a negative statement, or they verbally actually voice something negative, this big stop sign will come up in front of their face, and then it will gently turn like another color, reminding them that they can change that phrase. Instead of saying, oh, I'm such an idiot, man, I totally screwed that up. And instead they say, wait a minute, no, I'm getting better and I'm learning things. And so we got to get the self-talk so that they don't kind of de-hypnotize themselves. And then this says repetition, which blazing the path. And it talks about your brain. And if you fire it, you wire it, and what happens with the neural pathways, so that they really understand that those changes they're making in their brain are going to stay there if they do some repetition to continue to fire the neurons and grow the pathways in their brain. And this one is about find your truth, because addicts and alcoholics generally are very dishonest and they can't trust themselves, and they don't even know what's true anymore sometimes because they've gotten so good at lying. So this is a session, this audio session is about what it is like to have integrity and what it feels like to be honest. And I know all of you can do a session like this. You just have them knowing how they find themselves when they're honest and when they're not having to lie anymore, and how good that feels. So, and then just some stuff about consistency, things you're going to do different every day. This session is a resolution activator. And then you do a release the past. And so anyway, there's a few more sessions in here, but it's really cool. It's a good program because, like I said, we want to hit them from every possible way we can, from every angle. And especially if it's a really insidious drug, like if it's opiates. So you can see with that book that there are so many things going on that we're not going to just say, okay, think positive and give them a timeline. You're going to give them, you know, the beliefs that they're changing with the swish, working on their past, getting rid of the sabotage, getting the self-talk, everything. So if you start doing this work, the word of mouth is pretty phenomenal. And that's how I've had people fly in to do the work with me. And it only takes 4 days out of their life. And then I stay with them on the phone every day for about 15 minutes for a couple weeks.
Wendi, I'm curious, are all addictions very similar? In other words, a smoking addiction, a potato chip addiction, or some other food kind of addiction, would all of those benefit from this protocol?
Well, kind of. Smoking isn't as complicated, I don't think.
Food certainly.
It wouldn't need all these sessions.
Food is certainly similar to a heroin addiction.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, heroin might be easier to give up than food.
Yeah, it's just you don't have the kind of withdrawals with food that you have with heroin, and which is a lot of the reason people keep doing it, because each day you start going into your withdrawals every day, and it's just your body apparently hurts a lot. But you could use these same processes for food, for sure. If you had someone who really is so complex in their food issues, you could use all of these elements and work with them. Yeah. And you know, if you had, like if you were gonna open a center, something really simple, but you could have certain times when there's people with food addictions that they come in and do these processes with you as a group. And they could do, you know, if they want long-term support, they could do like a 6-month thing with you so they have a safe place all the time. Yeah. So, but smoking is, to me, it's just different, and I've worked with it, but I just think it's a little different thing because I was a smoker, and I don't know, there's just something about it that to get it unhooked took a different approach. But drug addiction, so the drugs, you know, like meth and opiates and cocaine, and I haven't worked with anybody to make them quit smoking pot, because I don't think pot is a bad thing. It can get too extreme, like too much pot use, but generally I'm okay with them smoking pot instead of drinking alcohol and instead of doing opiates and other drugs. One of my opiate clients, he was about 24 years old, and he flew in for the 4-day, and he just took one hit of pot before each session we did. And you know what, I think there is some research out there about how differently hypnosis affects you when you have a little THC in your system. And maybe it gives you a better trance or a deeper trance. Could be, but he did great with it. And on day number 3, his mom was with him. On day number 3, when they came in and his mom said, "What did you do to Grant?" I said, "Why?" She says, "Oh my gosh, I got my son back. He's looking in my eyes and he's hugging me." Because we worked with his inner child a bit. And on day 3, she says, "I haven't seen this in 10 years. It was really great. Yeah, and some of the drugs, like, you got to learn about your drugs. If you have clients that come in for this, and that's part of the training I do, is we get you really solid on what all the drugs do. You have to know about the withdrawals and the dangers, and you're not going to be advising your clients medically, but you have to know. So if someone comes in and they're going to quit drinking, you have to know how much they were drinking and know that it's very dangerous. You can die from withdrawals from alcohol, and you have to know how much. So you might send them to their doctor to get help with withdrawing for 3 or 4 days. They can get some Ativan or benzo. Tell them they have to get a blood pressure or wrist blood pressure monitor, and they have to look at their blood pressure all throughout the day and how they are going to get back in touch with their doctor if anything. Because when you take alcohol away, your brain starts firing really fast because the alcohol was slowing it down, and it was slowing your heart down, blood pressure, but especially the brain. So they'll have seizures, and the seizures are very dangerous. They can die. But if you know enough to just say, you know, well, here's a sheet that has all the information, and I know that you probably already know this, but we have to talk about how you're going to do your withdrawals. And they will know if there's someone who is going to have trouble withdrawing. They know if they're drinking this much, or, you know, a gallon of vodka a day. And people ramp up, and some people do drink an extraordinary amount of alcohol. Whoa! But they're also the ones that have to wake up during the night to dose themselves. They can't even get through the night. Yeah. So any other questions right now?
Michael, I think you are muted, and I have been so fascinated I haven't even been looking for questions.
Yeah, Mary Beth Lodge has one. She was asking, can you reduce the severity of opiate withdrawal by using imagery and anchoring?
Yeah, that is a fantastic question. I believe that there are some things that are so physical that we just don't have that kind of power to undo. I don't think we can slow down their brain when they quit drinking alcohol. I don't think we can slow it down in the way that, you know, it's, boy, we're up against a lot there. And with opiates, maybe they could feel better if they had some recordings to listen to, some, you know, just anything relaxing. But I don't think it's going to stop the bones being on fire and the pain just everywhere in their body. I don't know for sure. Oh, Joe Moon says, what do you do for alcoholics who are drinking and have stopped eating? Well, clearly we have to get them to get some nutrition. And there is an entire nutrition plan in this program, and it tells you what supplements to take to restore your brain health as fast as you can, and to get them producing dopamine again. So basically, Joe Moon, I would say, you know, give them a plan of what they can eat that will be easy on their stomach, because they tore their stomach up with that much alcohol. So give them some ideas of, you know, some smoothies, things like that they can take that are gentle. They need collagen in their belly, because you gotta heal your gut when you're an alcoholic, because your gut is just destroyed, because your gut is what's going to allow your brain to heal. So they need collagen, and they need prebiotics and probiotics to start getting their gut healed, and they can drink bone broth that will help heal their gut, and some omega-3s, and I have a big list of all these things. But you're right. When they've stopped eating, that's because they've destroyed their stomach.
Mm.
And Chris says, do you work in parallel with a doctor for each addict? Sometimes I do. I do tell them ahead of time that, you know, I'm not in a position to advise you about medical issues of what you're going to do. They are already an expert in what it takes to quit drinking and withdraw and all that. But we got to talk about, you know, that you could have seizures if you're drinking that much. So, and if they go to their doctor for addiction help and they say, I'm working with a therapist, but I need to do the withdrawals, the doctor will give them the drugs that they need to slow their brain down, the Ativan or whatever things. There are addiction doctors out there that charge about $1,000, and they'll give you whatever medical stuff they can to help you withdraw from opiates or alcohol or whatever. But they don't have anywhere to send their patients for help. Well, except 12-step. But you know, if you got yourself hooked in with some addiction doctors and they would send you their patients, they would be very grateful, you know, because all the tools they have are the drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wendi, you had a set of circumstances in your personal life that got you in the door, if you will, with this. I guess what I'm wondering for hypnotherapists, maybe if they're just getting started or have been working for a while and they've decided this is something that I'd really like to concentrate on. How would you suggest that folks kind of get started or move into this area or get their foot in the door, as it were?
Yeah. When I started thinking about doing this for clients, I thought, I'm not like this professional that's a doctor or that knows stuff about this, and why would they want to do this work with me? You know, the experts are in the rehab centers. They're certainly the ones that know what they're doing, you know. Who am I? Because I paid them $150,000 altogether for my son. For the experts.
I didn't mean to laugh. You understand?
Yeah, oh no, yeah. So I really started looking at it, helping. The first guy I helped was the meth client. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I did some good work, but still. And then another guy had listened to a free session of mine online. That's, you know, it's a nice, happy session. It takes you into the future a little bit and you change some things. And he had a cocaine habit for 15 years. He had lost everything so many times. And he listened to this session, maybe a 15-minute session, and he quit doing cocaine just from that one session. And he still is in touch with me from 10 or 15 years ago. So these things kept happening and happening. And I thought, wait a minute, I am an expert in hypnosis, and this is working for people who have serious lifelong drug and alcohol problems. So I figured, okay, I'm an expert at it. I'm going to build this whole program so that everything looks really, you know, really gives them confidence and helps them feel that, oh, this is something. So it's not something you can let them do a little 12-step and let them do a little addiction freedom. They just don't play together. Yeah, and you got to let them know that. There's no more 12-step meetings.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't think there's any rule or guideline or ethics question about suggesting no more 12-step programs.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Especially best advice you can give to somebody.
Yeah, and when you get started with the book, on the first couple of pages, you start understanding why 12-step is making you relapse. And I love to make that statement. And if you can get confident enough, you can tell people that the AA 12-step, those meetings, they're actually making you relapse. Let me show you how or why. Yeah, and just interesting, the place in Malibu, he's having great success, but he charges $100,000 for 1 month.
Yeah.
And we can do it. Do great work and make it happen for a lot less.
Chris added something onto her question here, and that is about your qualifying the client intake process. Can you talk a little bit about how you do that?
Yeah, so there are some people that I probably wouldn't work with. The guy that came out that was the opiate addict, when I first saw him, I didn't want to work with him, and he just flew out here because he was creepy. He has tattoos on both of his arms, their faces of all these people who are like killers and like Manson and all these horrible people all over his arms. And he wouldn't make eye contact, and he was totally just not there. But I did, and I'm so glad I did, because I could have decided that he wasn't ready and he wasn't the right person. So qualifying them, it has to do with how much drug use they have, what are the drugs, and if you know what the effect is of each drug and what the withdrawal process is, then you kind of have a little better idea. Tricky with the opiates. They've got to withdraw from the opiates, and it takes 2 weeks. So that's a tough one. But a lot of opiate addicts do go through times where, okay, I've cleaned up and I'm scared to death because I don't want to do it again. So they're ready to go. Once they're clean, you can work with them right away. And the alcohol, you know, that's one you need to find out for sure how much they're drinking. Let them know, you know, you can be honest with me about it, but we need to know to decide when we can start working together. So basically, if they know they're drinking enough that if they don't drink first thing in the morning, they get the shakes really bad, they already know that they're really dialed in to dependency. So that's kind of one of the things. They know that as soon as they start shaking, that that's a seizure in their brain, and they have to get some benzos down right away. So anyway, I think that's what you mean. Qualifying them is maybe someone just doesn't seem like the kind of person you want to work with, you know? Maybe they're just not your kind of client. I had one guy that he wasn't an addict, but he was had some kind of psychosis, but nobody was helping him, and he'd been trying so hard. And he kept coming in twice a week. And one of the times he said, I want to kill my parents. He lives with his parents. I want to kill my parents. It's like, oh, I can't keep working with Andy. Oh, this is too creepy. Then he comes in another time. He says, I was in the bar last night, and I really think I want to kill everyone in the bar. Oh my God. Oh. And I hung in there with him. And my heart is just, oh my gosh. We did some work together, and at one point he was a 2-year-old baby just curled up in my arms and working out some shit.
Yeah.
And he went home, and his mother called me and said, oh my gosh, Andy, I have my son back. And he had no more desire to kill anybody. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But when you ask about qualifying the clients and trying to decide, you know, it's a tough one. And if it doesn't feel right, don't do it, you know. But where else are they going to go? And then with Andy, what was going to happen? Who was he going to kill finally? And he called me years later. He called me and said, hey, I'm doing pretty good. I'm still a little weird and paranoid and stuff, but I'm feeling okay. Life's all right. Yeah. Whew.
So
I had a child molester for a client too once. I'm not going to talk about that, but oh, whew, but we did good work.
Wendy, Gloria's got her hand up, and I might mention, by the way, that this time has gone by so fast. We're like 7 minutes away from done time. So we've just got a couple of questions yet that we need to get through if we can. So Gloria, I'm going to open up your microphone so you can ask your question. Go ahead. Oops, wait. Let me do it. Gloria, don't do anything. Gloria, don't do anything.
Nothing. Do nothing.
I don't seem to be able to open up your microphone, Gloria. Are you clicking on it as well as me? No? I don't know what the deal is, but your microphone is not unmuting for me. Can you type a question in the box here? And in the meantime,
It's unmuted now, it looks like.
Oh, good. Go ahead, Gloria.
I unmuted it on my side.
Yeah, I think we were doing it back and forth. You were unmuting it, and I was muting you at the same time because
When you started the meeting, I thought you muted us.
Yeah.
So I never touched it again until just now when you asked me. And so then just now I put it on.
Yeah, I understand what happened, but go ahead and ask your question because we're running out of time, hon.
All right. I was involved with the church. I was running the church. And I did, spiritual counseling for people. And we had quite a lot of discussions in that and various groups getting together on what are ethically can you do. Now, if somebody comes in to me as a minister or as a counselor, whatever, right? And a lot of issues came up with if you have somebody that's threatening, maybe they want to kill someone or that, the questions came up whether ethically you needed to report that to the authorities. And I remember we had come to the conclusion in our organizations that when you have a client that comes into you and they're going to be a little more dicey than most, then you give them a form and you let them know in advance in writing that should anything they might say or do that could be a threat, that you by law are obligated to let the authorities know.
Yeah. Well, we're not mandated reporters as hypnotherapists, so we are not obligated by law to do anything. So it's more like what you said, it's the ethics of it. Where do you decide that you should do something like that? But yeah, we're not required to.
Okay. And Brent had a question for you too about insurance. It's in the chat room. Can you see?
Yeah. So no, I don't get paid by any insurance because hypnotherapy generally isn't covered. I don't know if that's changing with some organizations. So I don't. They don't have money. You're right. Most addicts, that's one of the things they've screwed up. But they're for what you're doing, if someone's mom or their sibling or their child wants to help, maybe an adult child wants to help their dad or whatever, there is someone who has $2,000 to $4,000. There is.
Yeah.
Because that's a drop in the bucket compared to what they've spent, and they can't work and they're not earning a living. And so there's someone who has a credit card.
They're ending up in all those expensive rehab centers somehow.
I know.
Right?
They mortgage their house to send their kid to another rehab, or their husband or their wife. Their credit cards are maxed out. They take out loans. They find relatives that'll give them money. So
Yes.
Chris had asked about working in parallel with a doctor for each addict, and that is a great way to do it. Let the doctor know that you're going to be doing a hypnotherapy program that's for this massive behavioral change to release the triggers of addiction. So you're not treating addiction, because we don't treat anything, but you're going, and you can word it in a way that is safe, and then the doctor is going to be like, ooh, really? It sounds interesting. Tell me more. Yeah. But there's so much opportunity for the ways that you can implement this. If you go to the hospital and you go to the department that is for the addiction programs that they have and say, could I set up an appointment to talk to you about a really effective addiction program that uses hypnotherapy, NLP, and mindfulness, and it has amazing results, even for people who don't think they can quit, and get them juiced up.
Okay.
Out of the box thinking too. Check with pain clinics, because all over the country they're having to take away medications. People who've been on 5 or 6 opioids are now only getting 2 or 3, and they're having to send them someplace to at least reduce the dependency. So they're likely to do as an adjunct provider as well.
And there are churches who have 12-step meetings there, but they'd probably be open to doing something better and maybe more spiritual and has a more holistic approach. Yeah. But yeah, the amount of ways that you can market this and present this is pretty phenomenal. You could go to the college. They have addiction treatment in the universities. But you could say, can we do this program and maybe do 6 weeks worth or something and see what they think. Jails, they have a program so you can go in and work with people in the jails, and the ones who are getting out soon, you work with them, and maybe you have some really cool people that have a different outlook when they get out of jail.
So Wendi, we're at the end of our time, and I don't want to get away from here without this part. First of all, we really appreciate what you've done, and I want to make sure that people know how they can get in touch with you. And you've shown us this beautiful book. Can they get your book? Are you doing some training? What's the deal, Wendi? How can we get more of you?
So I'm just going to do this share thing one more time for this. What I would ask you to do is email me at wendi@wendi.com. This is the very end of the book. That's so much happier than 12-step meetings. So email me, wendi@wendi.com, with an I, of course. Make sure it's an I on the end. And maybe what we could do is set up if you wanted to do an online training for your group or something, we could set that up and do a training or do a mini training. And again, I didn't come here to sell you anything, but if you want to, make this something that you do in your life, we could do that.
Yeah, or we could direct people towards you, and I could help you if you need some help with it, or whatever. We'll figure it out. We'll talk.
I think my mouse just quit working. What?
But Wendi.com.
Yeah, Wendi.com with an I. So what I did, George Norrie, real quick, the coast to coast.
Oh yeah, please.
It was so crazy. I had to have a phone that's wired in, and it can't be a cordless phone.
Can you stop sharing your screen so we can see you?
I'm trying, but my mouse is like going crazy.
Oh.
The hell, I don't know what's happening here.
I wonder if I can stop it.
Oh yeah, see if you can do it. Because my mouse is like not showing up.
Yeah,
I wonder if
I can
it's
do it.
batteries.
There it
There
is.
you go. Okay. So this was really exciting. I had a big office, and I had, like, at that time about 14 people working for me full time and stuff. And everything was CDs and DVDs, like actual products. So anyway, so I'm going to go on this program. I had 2 days notice, and it was for 3 hours that he kept me on there. 3 hours, oh my God. And it was late. It didn't start till 10 p.m. my time. Oh. And it was awesome. And I told everybody, like, the couple days before, I said, if I'm on this program, you got to start folding boxes like now. We got to bring in all your friends and fold all the boxes and get it figured out. The next day, our sales are $80,000 in one day.
Wow.
Yeah. Then we had been doing, like, I don't know, we did like 10,000 a day back then. And then the next day was 50,000. The next day was 40,000. And just printing out the invoices, the stacks of invoices and stuff. But it was great. People got their friends to come in and fold boxes and do all this stuff. And we nailed it, man. We got those orders out. And it was very exciting, though, man. If you start doing addiction stuff, you're going to get the attention of some big media because it's such a big subject. Yeah.
That's great. That's lovely. All right. Well, we are so thrilled and so fortunate to have spent this time with you once again. I've had I've had 5 hours of Wendi Friesen in the last.
You poor thing.
That's great. That's lovely. So thanks for being here. You know what we're going to do, because we did it. We did it on the other thing too. So we're going to unmute everybody's microphones so that all these folks can let you know how much they love and appreciate you. And that will be the end of the show. So before we do that, I just want to remind everybody again, come and see us Sunday night if you'd like to for the presenter series, and the conference is coming up and all of that great stuff. So we hope to see you around soon. Keep your eye on virtual chapter on the Facebook group to know all of the good goings on. And now say what you got to say to Wendi, because she's listening.
Thank you, Wendi. Always
Thank
great
you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Wendi.
Wendy, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're wonderful. Thank you.
Good night. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank all
Wendy.
of you for being here. We'll do something big.